All right, continuing with modifying text in Illustrator. So because I've made all of this text an outline, I cannot easily change my font decision. So for instance, the Gotta Catch 'Em All has a different design of the A's. And I can't just retype this with a different font that looks more like that, like a Comic Sans. This looks like a very kind of generic Comic Sans kind of font. But what I can do now that they're outlined is modify any path I like and customize it. So if I wanted to, I could redraw this A to match, to be a little different, right? And then I can take out some anchor points, clean it up, round it out a little bit. And basically, as we have learned, Illustrator gives us full control. Oops. Of these. If you need to highlight just one aspect of it, you can use the lasso tool. And then use the large selection tool to move it around. So that's the hole in my A, and I want to move that a little bit. And I like how that looks a little bit better. And maybe it's a form of self-protection, but I tend to like hand-done font design a little bit more than perfectly clean, perfectly modern font design. Yeah, maybe some hard edges aren't that bad. All right. Now you'll notice, because it's still just a white fill with a stroke, with a black stroke, and you can see that, well, it's on a white background, so it's hard to see that. To see that, I might take this whole layer and just move it up onto the gray. So you can appreciate that. Now I can play with the spacing of each form very individually. With my arrow keys, I can kind of nudge them into place. And they should all be perfectly clean. And then for things like this A, I can use the lasso. I can select it all, and then copy it, Command C, and then paste it and move it out of the way with the large selection tool. Then use the lasso again. To delete the others and put this in. And I can modify it. It's on a curve. I can shorten it a little bit. I can nudge it around. Ultimately, I want this to be really readable, so even with this stroke, which is a fairly thick stroke, I don't want the stroke to ever overlap. So I always want there to be a little bit of gray space in between each letter. I can replace my T's. And by the way, when you create the outlines, it will give you a group where you can select each letter on its own. So I don't always have to use the lasso. So it's all about just kind of knowing what's going on. And of course, in Illustrator, I don't actually like the repetition of that T, so I might use this T, but I might just modify it. So I might find that T right there. I might enlarge it. It's its own path. I might turn it a little bit more, lengthen it, narrow it, and just redraw it a little bit differently. Because we have full control of these things in Illustrator. Shorten this part. Shorten this part. And get a bit of a hook, but not as much of a hook. Yeah, that looks better. So just like compositing in Photoshop, I'm pretty laboriously going through and tweaking everything to my liking. And that's how a logotype or a flag is finished. It has to look good in black and white. Color can only support it or ruin it. Color will never save a bad black and white type design. And often we're not critical enough of fonts we find. Like this H, that comes right from the font, but it's pretty sloppy. I think it should be longer. I think it should be a little tighter. So I might go in there and take out a few anchor points. Sometimes it doesn't take much to help clean it up. This E just isn't inspiring yet. Redraw that curve. Hook it down a little more. Take the inside of it. Move that around a little bit. Maybe take the whole thing. Rotate it a little bit. That's better. Even the apostrophe is its own thing. I want to curve it a little bit, at least on the bottom, to kind of reference the curvy one from the poster. And then I can rotate it, place it where I think. And the poster, it puts it really close to the E. I'm going to keep that as well. Okay, I've got one more A to replace, and then I'm going to fix those L's. This M, I'm going to round out just right here. So again, these are all customizing existing fonts. And a subtle curve like the one I'm working with is a lot easier than a really severe curve, because then you have fonts kind of tripping all over themselves. But so much can be done. All right, let's fix these L's, and then I'll be done with the gotta teach them all. Or maybe I'll fix the exclamation point a little bit. And for the L's, let's see. I think I want to curve them on the top. Maybe just one side of the top. Like that. And then let's get rid of this. looks better. So font design is just kind of vector compositing. Tweaking it, placing it, doing all that good stuff. Just like free transforming, but you're doing it with the large selection tool. And last but not least, the exclamation point. Let's round that out just a bit. Remember, your pencil has to go through and to an anchor point. And because they're outlines, I can even treat the top of the exclamation point separately from its bottom, because they're disconnected paths. Oops. And then using the large selection tool, I can nudge them together, and then I can move them as a whole, move them down and away, and rotate them a little bit more. So I've got my tagline, gotta teach them all. Then look at it, be critical. I want to make my G a little bit more powerful to go with that T. I'll rotate it, I'll grow it, narrow it slightly. Yep, I think that helps. And I want to make this just a little bit more angular. So one of the harder things is using the pencil to get you a sharp edge, and you just have to like really mean it when you break that line. Like, don't wobble at all, and you'll get a clean break. And maybe what bugs me is how far down this tail goes. So let's shorten that a little bit. Trying to get the clean break. Maybe this would be a better way. Yeah. And then I can always just move anchor points as well. And remove them. And play with curves. Okay. So that is a black and white text solution. So I'm going to move it into place. It's all on this one layer. From outlined fonts, now I've made my own. I'm going to make my last A a little bit bigger, just because it's the beginning of a word. And then I might take all of these and just extend them a little bit further away from the last word. You do that all with the large selection tool. And I can even rotate them all just slightly more. Okay, so now if I have that, then I have the first part of the assignment. And I just turn off the other layers. And I save this as an EPS. But this is assignment 8, text, EPS to the desktop.